It's all PG-13, but you know what? We don't have any FCC, so by all means.
This man can't go an entire show without talking about Glenn Beck. I mean, I like Glenn Beck. Don't get me wrong. Glenn Beck's a great guy, but I mean, how many times do you bring him up in your show every day?
I don't.
Exactly. That's my point. That is exactly my point.
He may be in trouble, and I'll tell you why.
Whoop, sorry.
He was told, it has to be now 6 months ago, that research showed that he was being too evangelical, and he was alienating a lot of the people that were tuning into his program for politics, not religion.
Right.
And I think he was shown the research and even said, I don't care what the research says, this is what we do. His audience in radio has been declining. His radio and TV has been declining. It's still good, but the trend is not good.
Yeah.
And Fox may be looking ahead and saying this may not be something that we want to stay with for a long time.
There's also rumors that he's trying to get away from his ridiculous schedule and give up Fox TV to do something more on the web, akin to what we're doing. And I mean that makes sense, but I've got no proof either way. Just
Well, when you're making $30 million a year, it's kind of hard to give up that tough schedule.
Right? That tough schedule for $30 million.
That ball-busting schedule that he's on that includes being on in the morning with Fox and Friends, doing his radio show, going on in the afternoon with O'Reilly, and then doing his show at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Is something that I wouldn't do for $60 million. I'm
No,
lying
that's
like
tough.
hell.
I just want to go on the record. I would.
I'm lying like hell.
I was just going to say, $60 million, I will just about do anything.
I got Fritch down to 2 when we signed him here at IPN, so I figured $2 million was going to be our break point anyway.
I'm glad you came on today because you had Ron Reagan on your show talk about his new book. And you got some national headlines for the incident that occurred. I'd like you to talk a little bit about that. I know we're getting off a little bit off of what we originally were talking about, but I'd like you to talk a little bit about that because you saw my clip where we were kind of making fun of the whole thing.
Sure.
But I don't think the people realize how it got to that point.
Well, they brought him on to talk about the book, and I had seen him on previous nights in a couple of other shows, and I saw where he was going with this. My father was affected by Alzheimer's, and during his second term, he probably had it, blah, blah, blah. And doctors who are experts in Alzheimer's saying, no, you can't tell by looking at the guy that this is Alzheimer's, and the people that examined him said he didn't have it. But here's a guy that has made a career of getting headlines by opposing his father. When his father was alive, he was always, being the anti-Ronald. Mm-hmm. And first of all, let me say something. I never voted for Ronald Reagan in 2 elections. I never voted for him. I voted for John Anderson once, and I don't know what the hell got into me, but I voted for Mondale on the other one. But I didn't vote for Ron Reagan. This had nothing to do with politics. This is something to do with having respect for your parents.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go out there and stand on a street corner and say, my dad was a great guy. But you don't have to stand out there with a sign saying, my dad was a jerk, or my dad was sick, or my dad was this. And Ronnie's not around to defend himself,
yeah.
And I just thought it was disrespectful. I've heard a lot of stories from people that know the family very well that said that Maureen flew from California to New York to go to an event for her father. Ronnie Jr. was across the street, living across the street from where the function was going to be, and wouldn't go across the street to go, stand up for his father. I just thought he was just very disrespectful, and I just told him what I thought a lot of people wanted to tell him. You're an asshole. That's all.
Yeah. Straight up, and when we heard it, we all applauded too, because he did come off that way. He sounded disrespectful even on your show.
If you would have read the book, I said, listen, first of all,
wait a minute, I can credit you. It's more like this. If you would have read the book, that's how it really was.
That's more like it.
Yeah.
Sharp essence.
Yes, very sharp.
But I looked at him and I said, look, if Michael Moore writes a book, if Al Gore writes a book, I don't have to read that book to know it's a bunch of shit in there. I mean, I don't.
Yes.
It's a fact.
And that's exactly the way that I feel about Ron Reagan's book. There was nothing in there that was going to change the world. There was nothing in there but I'm going to try to make money off the 100th anniversary of my father's birth. You know?
Yep.
Even though I didn't like his politics, I didn't side with him or whatever, I'm going to make money off the old man. Here's a kid that grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth, maybe someplace else. But I mean, he had everything that you and I would have loved to have had as a kid growing up, and he's the most unappreciative jerk in the world.
No, I absolutely agree with you.
Slamming the old man, you know?
Well, you know, the amazing thing is he actually tried to defend it and said you didn't read the book, and that he never said that he had Alzheimer's or any signs of Alzheimer's. But in the before the book was even released, there was a press release. And in the press release, he alludes to that.
We got it.
That he approved.
We got it.
And then after the fact, he starts backtracking.
And then he got his facts wrong. He said that his father had gotten brain surgery in Tucson and everything. And I told him, I said, that's not true. I said, you made that up. Well, we realized it was a mistake before the book was released, but it was too late. Come on, man.
And how do you make a mistake like that? This is your father.
This is your father. This is your father.
I just think personally he's a disgusting human being. Anyone to take advantage of your dead father and try to make $1 off of it in this fashion, to me, is just disgusting.
Look, if you live with your family for a number of years, you find out enough stuff about your parents that if you wanted to write a book, you could write a book.
Oh.
And I mean, everybody has their thing that they could write about their parents.
I'm still in therapy over mine.
But you don't
you
don't
write about. You don't talk about.
You don't talk about it. You know, whatever. I mean, not everybody had great parents.
That's right. Yeah.
There's a lot of, but they're only human.
Yeah.
You know, but if you spend time with them long enough, you've got enough stuff where you could go around and do a tell-all book on them. But the thing is, have a little respect for the family and for your parents. You know, you don't have to say anything good about them. Just don't say anything bad about them.
I completely agree with you. The other thing that irritates me is when we talk about respect. One thing that I don't personally care for Dick Morris. You know who he is,
Right.
a Fox News contributor. And the reason I don't, here's a guy who, he worked for Bill Clinton for years. And as soon as he's out of office, it's bash time.
Yeah.
Now, I don't agree with most that Bill Clinton did or said or, his politics. But the same token, if you work for the President of the United States, you work at the pleasure of the United States, unless you resign or something like that, keep your mouth shut. Respect the office. You worked, even the office that Barack Obama holds, and I agree with none of his politics. But if you work in that office, unless he does something illegal, keep your mouth shut. Keep that stuff. I mean, it's got to be a respect thing. And so much in society, I just don't see respect anymore.
No, Dick, I know Dick, okay? And he spent a week down here trying to audition to do a national talk show. And when we were owned by J-Corps, he came in and they let him do the nighttime shift for an entire week to see if he had it. And I got a chance to meet him and to spend a lot of time with him. And he's a nice guy, but here's a guy that worked for Trent Lott. Here's a guy that worked. Really, I mean, how do you go from working for Trent Lott to going to work for Bill Clinton? You have no morals. You have no belief system.
You're a bought man.
You're there. Yeah. You're a whore. You're a political whore. You're going wherever they're paying you the money, and that's the name of that tune.
And I'm okay with that. But just let's be honest about it.
Put it up front.
Say this is what I do. I go to the highest bidder.
That's it.
And that's what kind of aggravates me. And I knew before you come on, even though we hadn't spoke, that this was not a political thing with Ron Reagan.
No,
that this was strictly a respect thing. Because honestly, that's how it hit me at first. I'm like,
when it comes to politics, look who I brought with me over here. the most left-wing guy in the world, Danny the Dodger, and I love the guy. I mean, we're childhood friends. We grew up together. So. Politics has nothing to do with the thing.
If you're old school, if you're old school Tampa radio, you remember Danny calling in just about every day. I know I do, Danny. Big fan of yours as well. But hell, I remember Teddy in the midday show, taking calls from you, and you just giving him hell, unending. And Mark Larson too. I mean, I loved it when Danny would just get in their face about it because it was good, entertaining radio. But the fact that you still hang with him, you bring him here, it's all good. Ronald Reagan is a piece of crap.
He's an asshole.
For that guy, he's an asshole.
He's an asshole. That's all.
For him to come out and not just to publish the book and not to make statements like that, but even with his own family, his brother said, that he has absolutely no right, and he's completely wrong in a majority
his
of the facts in his
adopted
book.
brother. That's the thing that gets me the most.
The one that everybody has respect for, by the way. The adopted brother, the one that actually made something of his life. I love Teddy's comment about bringing it on next time he comes to Tampa and getting his ass kicked by a ballerina.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that, too. I'm a little concerned for you.
Why?
Well, you heard the training video that we played.
Yeah.
And I'm just scared he might break out something like the Karate Kid Crane or maybe the Black Swan. You just don't know what these dancers will pull out on you at the last moment.
I'm going to leave it as, I've got something for his ass.
Oh, yeah.
Just, like I said, you just don't know what,
I'll put something on his ass that Ajax won't take off.
Well, I don't think we'll have to worry about
He's
that.
a ballerina, for God's sakes.
Right?
Well, that's what I said, Flossie, 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 Madonna. I mean, that's his practice routine, and that I don't know how that works for him, but I was concerned because I haven't seen it in action, but you never know.
Yeah, the way to do him is, I'm going to, come on, hit me, and you go, no. That'll kill him.
That'd kill him.
Please hit me.
I think.
With those sharp S's, you do it better than me. Go ahead.
Please hit me. Please, just hit me.
No.
Hit me.
No.
Well, it will kill him because I think it's going to turn him on. That's going to be the big problem.
That's the whole thing. I was worried about that. The more I'd slap him,
It's just going to turn him on.
I mean, we'd go pick out furniture after the fight,
Come on, is that all you got?
I've got more than that. I just can't show it to you.
We did say PG-13, right?
It's all right. This is the Fritch Show.
We had to clean the floor before Teddy came in, just so you know.
I like to talk to you a little bit about local politics, which has gotten into some national exposure now with the whole bullet train and the train situation. What is your thoughts on this and your personal belief?
Everybody says that we need it, that it's going to be good for tourism because people will come from Orlando down here to go to the Hard Rock, to the beaches, to the zoo, to everything else that we have. But it's like me saying to you, hey, Fritch, I'm going to buy you a brand new BMW, and I'm going to pay for everything, okay? But you're responsible for the maintenance down the road. And the first time that something goes wrong with that BMW and you take it into the shop and all they have to do is remove one little bulb from your rear lights, and the guy says, that'll be $675, and you go, for one bulb? It's a BMW. It's a BMW bulb. When you start taking care of the maintenance of these rails, you're talking about some serious money, and it never, ever pays for itself. Any rail system in America that was established after 1950 has been a disaster when it comes to making money. I'm still hearing those voices. I have to go to therapy after every now and then. I'm just hearing it just comes out.
It happens to me too.
Sometimes But they don't pay for themselves. You can take a look at Atlanta, Miami, Los Angeles. There's a lot of places that have built rail systems after 1950. None of them are profitable, and they cost a hell of a lot of money. Is it a good thing? Yeah, it would be a great thing if we had it, but we don't have the money to maintain it. And that's one more of those federal mandates that is unfunded.
Yes.
They give you the rail, they'll do it for you. They can get Chinese or Spanish companies to come in here and do it for you for nothing. Wouldn't cost you a penny. But the maintenance, maintaining it long after they're gone, you'll never ever make it a profitable thing,
And that's why companies aren't killing themselves to get here and build it, because they can't afford the upkeep on it either.
Absolutely. If it was going to be a profitable thing, they would have been lining up to have this thing built a long time ago. Don't put me in a position to try to defend Rick Scott, because I have issues with Rick Scott.
I think we all do.
I agree.
I said this at the beginning. I said anybody that could rip the government out for $2 billion, you got to have balls this big to run for elected office and say, vote for me. I've got the solution.
And they tried to give him that $2 billion again, and he refused it this time.
Yeah, this time. I didn't understand that
So
before.
you took it before.
You
What
took
the hell's
it
your
before.
problem?
Why aren't you
Wait,
taking it
you ripped
now?
us off for $2 billion, but here's $2 billion more.
So
But that isn't that really how government
That's the
works?
irony. No, it is. Last time we stole it. This time they want to give
Now
it to
we're
us, and we
actually
don't
just
want
gonna
it.
give it to you out in the
no.
open.
Can't
more
take
fun.
it.
Hide that $2 billion somewhere and let me find it. Then I'll accept
It's like
it.
Easter time. Yeah, it's good.
I'm in complete agreement with you on the rail system. I'm actually in the minority in the building on the rail system here. The other thing is I don't really believe the projections of the supposed jobs it's going to bring, and then the overwhelming cost of to maintain those jobs, to maintain the rail, is what scares the hell out of me the most.
Well, there's a couple of stipulations in this.
Yeah.
If you take that money from Washington to build this rail system, it has to be built by union workers.
Yep.
And then it goes on from there. There's all kinds of little codicils that are not being talked about right now that you have to accept as part of it. And, give me the money if it's good times and we can afford it and everything, but we can't afford it. We're broke. We're broke as hell right now. And everybody says, well, the government's not broke. Michael Moore saying the government ain't broke. I say, well, where the hell did you get your economics degree? I mean, our dollar's been devalued by 20% over the last 4 or 5 years. As things are going to get harder in this country. I mean, gasoline, man, we could be paying really $6, $7, $8 a gallon for gasoline if things don't straighten out in the Middle East. That's going to make the cost of everything else go up. And I don't know about you guys, but we haven't had a raise in a while, a couple of years.
Don't bring that up with Fritch, please. This is already a source.
We're getting ready to renegotiate my contract. So
We're not even 3 months into it.
There's no money there,
Yeah.
And the unions right now are saying, well, that's okay. We've negotiated this. We want this. We want this. Well, what about if there's no money? I don't care. Print more. And, it's like me.
I have to concur on every one of your points because they are very valid. I don't disagree that we are broke as a country and as a state. We are still running. But the beautiful thing is this area is mandated to run on a budget. We have to balance the budget every year.
We have to balance it.
Thank
not
goodness.
The federal government.
Right, not the federal government. And that's kind of my point. We have no state income tax. Okay, and I'm very thankful for that.
So am I.
I'm as conservative as the day is long on those issues. The thing about the rail that really pisses me off is that this is money that has been allocated out of the stimulus package from almost 2 years ago that we will never see in the state of Florida.
No, it's going somewhere.
They'll give it away.
It's going
They'll give it to somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's what made me mad. I guess the point of doing it, regardless of whether or not we can afford it, is can we afford it 12, 20 years from now? Because that's, as you pointed out, that's when the bulbs are going to go bad. That's when the maintenance is going to kick in. The Japanese and the French have already said they'll build it. They'll bring their product over. They'll assemble it. They'll lay the tracks. But we have to have the union workers to actually dig the ditches and make the pathway clear all the way from Lakeland to, Orlando and so forth. I'm just really, really pissed that stimulus money that Florida paid a major portion of because of the size of this state and the amount of taxpayers, we'll never see it. We will absolutely not get that money back. That's why Fritch says he's in the minority. We argue this back and forth. But on the light rail issue, they've screwed this up so badly. I mean, even with the private funding for light rail, they've messed this up to the point that we will never see it. It will never be a valid project. There is so many insurance debacles with the CSX train companies and everybody else that's responsible for the light rail in this area. All you have to do is look at the trolley that runs here through Ybor and see what a disaster that was. But again, you show me private funding and companies that'll get behind it and sponsorship to pay the way. I'm all for building jobs that, even if they're only going to last a couple, 3 years. Right now, that's enough to get some of the people over the hump. But what we'll never see is that stimulus money. That's gone forever.
Well, the thing that I often bring up too, I mean, here's a guy that ran, whether you like him or not.
Yeah.
He ran on the fact that he was going to fight Obamacare.
Right.
I mean, that was one of the things. And so, to me, it'd be hypocritical. First thing he gets in office, I don't want Obamacare, but I'll take your $2 billion for a train.
Yeah,
to me, that just writes hypocrite all over it. So for me, it's really hard for him to even come to that conclusion. Never mind the fact, forget about everything else.
And there's a guy who actually, I mean, if you want to say he profited from government-sponsored health care, I don't know if profit or theft is a better word for it.
I think theft. Stealing is what we like to call it.
We can't prove that in a court of law, apparently, with Columbia Healthcare, but,
Well,
okay.
no, it was proven in court of law. It just they couldn't prove that
couldn't-
he
that
had
he
any
was
knowledge
behind
of
it.
it.
Exactly,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
No, he's the chief. He didn't know shit.
Well, the one he's running now, which is these walk-in clinics and stuff, he, excuse me, he just recently said that he was going to defund this thing that regulates the pill mills, or was investigating the pill mills or something.
Oh, jeez.
And some people were saying that's because if they did that, it would cut into his walk-in clinic business or something. But it just seems to me like too many decisions are being made on what's best for him as opposed to what's best for all of us, you know?
Are not his investments in the open now that he's governor? Can we not look at his books and see straight up if this is true or not? I mean,
Sure.
we've got great people up there that you talk to all the time on the radio
Yeah.
that could look into that.
I'm sure that they're looking into it right now, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh,
Somebody
the
will
whole
find it.
entire Democrat Party's looking into it right now.
They're really upset. 12 years of Republican rule, and it's not getting any better for them right now.
I know you have another engagement you have to go to, but before you leave, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the whole Obamacare issue, why I have you on. They're still fighting in the courts. If you're a guy like me, I completely believe it's completely unconstitutional. I do believe we need to do something about health care. I just don't think this is the way to fix it. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, if you're serious about fixing health care, if you really are serious, you have to start with tort reform.
Yeah.
The rat bastard lawyers, and I call them rat bastards because they've been like that since, well, Shakespeare. First will kill the lawyers, right?
Right, right.
They were assholes back then in the time of Shakespeare. These guys have, I mean, they're ruthless, and they're the reason why healthcare costs went through the roof. They are the reason. The pharmaceuticals are guilty as well. I'm sure the doctors played a role in there, but in defense of the doctors, they've had to hire people in their offices just to take care of the insurance thing and the paperwork
Yep.
that the government wants for Medicaid, Medicare, and all this other stuff.
Sometimes 3 or 4 people
3 or 4
for
people.
2 doctor office.
Yeah, well, I know a 1 doctor office that's had 1 full-time insurance person,
Right.
and he's having to hire a part-time one just to deal with the new regulations and the new paperwork.
It's between the insurance companies and the government. See,
Yeah.
the insurance companies know that they have a racket. They know how to work the government program, and they will bill for you, and they will take a percentage of your earnings. The problem is the doctors now have no incentive to spend 8 to 12 years becoming doctors
Right.
before they make a dime.
Right.
And then they go in $200,000 in debt when they start their business.
These guys want to really be able to pay their malpractice insurance, which
Yeah.
is going through the roof
Yeah.
because of the lawyers. It's a big mess. Does healthcare need to be revamped? Yes, it does have to be revamped, but not our system scrapped and go into this European system, which is so damn good that when the king of Saudi Arabia needed surgery, he didn't go to England, he didn't go to Canada, he didn't go to Cuba. He came here because you had the best healthcare in the world here.
Yep.
That's right.
You know, is it affordable? It's not. I mean, it's gone crazy. But the reason is not the health care individuals that are providing the care. It's the people that are siphoning money from it, like the attorneys that are constantly suing for ridiculous stuff. And hospitals and doctors settle because it's cheaper to give this guy $50,000 or $100,000 than to fight it and have $2 million in legal fees.
Yep.
So the lawyers are using that to their advantage. You know, it's a sue-crazy society. But I think that Shakespeare was right. I think lawyers should be shot at birth. Especially left-handed ones.
Left-handed
go.
lawyers, that's right.
Well, you know, I don't think the American people really, most people don't really realize how big of a lobbying group the trial lawyers are.
Whoa!
They are the 3rd largest lobbying group in the entire country.
Yeah.
I mean, they out lobby big corporations that you see parties going out and demonize. They out lobby them, and yet never during the healthcare debate did we ever hear tort reform ever actually seriously put on the table.
No, it was never put on the table, and even Howard Dean, who was the head of the Democratic Party, was asked point blank one day, says, how come we're not addressing tort reform? And he goes, well, we can't. He says, the Trial Lawyers Association are one of our biggest contributors. He says, we can't do that. I mean, he was honest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
totally.
mean, and let's don't forget, too, that when you talk about prescription drugs as being part of the problem, they got their deal cut before the health care bill was even passed. I mean, they were the first people in Washington, D.C. with their handouts saying, let's go ahead and cut a deal before this bill gets passed. And they got their deal cut, and it's not good for the American people.
Well, this Obamacare is so good that there are now over 1,000 waivers that don't have to be part of Obamacare. 40% of those are unions, you know.
Yep.
So,
Gee, why would they do that, I wonder?
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I mean, this plan is not good enough for the union, but it was rammed down our throat. And the fact that the government tells you you have to buy this insurance. Well, what's to keep the government from saying if you're a two-car family, one of those two cars has to be a GM car because we own it?
Oh, that's coming.
That's coming,
Can't
yeah.
tell you. They can't tell you that. That's unconstitutional.
That was my exact
they can't
example.
Force you.
Yeah.
They cannot force you
That was
to buy anything.
That was what happened in Germany right before things really went south.
Yeah.
Well, an article we're getting ready to go over in a little bit, and I know you got to run, but very concerning to me, talking along those lines of government forcing people to do something or not do something. They're talking about, I don't smoke. I don't like to smoke. I occasionally smoke a cigar. But they're talking about outlawing menthol cigarettes because they believe it targets minorities in this country.
Oh, when you say minorities, the code word there is it targets blacks.
Yes.
They talk about blacks loving menthol cigarettes, so they want to outlaw it. Why don't you just outlaw cigarettes? It's not just menthol cigarettes, it's regular cigarettes that are killing people. If you're saying that, okay, and I was a smoker till a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't quit because I wanted to. I quit because I had to because of my health. But, man, how much are you going to put on these guys' shoulders that are smoking? The people that are smoking, they show you, are the lower social income groups that this
Can't
is
afford
it.
a tax on it
they
anyway.
They can't afford another tax on it, and you're taxing them. So, you know.
And not to mention, what are they going to do at the state level and the federal level? I mean, they're talking about outlawing menthols, by the way. But what are they going to do at the federal level and the state level if everyone decided one day, we're not going to smoke no more? It would be the worst thing for government because they're making billions of dollars off of these taxes. I mean, they're balancing their budgets with this.
Absolutely.
The government would collapse in economic stupor.
In
There would
a
be
heartbeat.
nothing left. Yeah,
It really
that would be
without
it. You're done.
the tobacco taxes, you know. But yet they want to go bust the balls of the people that smoke, you know.
Yep.
And I don't think that that's right.
I don't either. Ted, thank you so much for coming on today.
I enjoy
really
your
appreciate
program. I loved it, man.
Thank you.
Training, by the way, for his bout with Ronnie Reagan coming up here real soon.
I have to go do my ballet classes.
Of the dance, you do fussy, 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 you do Madonna, Madonna, Madonna.
But you keep it all inside, Teddy.
Keep it all inside. That's right, baby.
When we get back,